What's up guys, Brad here, and today we're going to be talking about the Tesla steering yoke. The day has come. I've now owned the Model S Plaid for a little over a month, and initially I was a hater. I hated the steering yoke. I thought it was the dumbest thing to put in a car, and it really killed the car for me, and I was this close to selling the car before it started to grow on me. Now to this point, I've driven it for well over 30 days, and I've got some unique perspective on the yoke, and I actually own the car. This isn't like somebody who borrowed the car for like an hour and they did a review on it, or they borrowed it for a day or even a week. You got to spend some time with this yoke to even know what the heck's going on with it and what the benefits are. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to be talking about just the general ergonomics of it, the ease of use when we're talking about the buttons and the controls, and the drivability of it. And is there really any sort of benefit to having a yoke versus a steering wheel in the first place? And would I do the yoke again if I have the option to swap out the yoke for a steering wheel? What would I choose? Now, if you hadn't had a chance yet, please go ahead and like the video if you end up digging it, sub to the channel, and let's hop into it. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about first is the actual controls and the usability of these controls on the steering yoke. Is it actually a benefit to have the buttons on here? Now, their thought process is, just like a Formula One car, you want to be as engaged into the vehicle as possible, and that means not taking your hand off of the steering wheel to adjust things. And I get that. That's very cool. Now, anybody that's ever, played like an Xbox or a PlayStation or anything like that is going to know that it's very easy to train your hands for the muscle memory to figure out where your hands are actually going to go when you're pressing a button and not look at the buttons themselves, right? So let's talk about this. So if we're going to want to turn left, you're just going to push down on the button, and then it has an auto detection, like if it thinks you just made a lane change or something like that, it'll automatically turn off, and we'll see that in a minute here. And then you press it to turn it off if it didn't recognize the turn that you were doing or the merge that you were doing or the lane change. Same thing up here, very nice. Now a big upgrade that they did on this car is they made it so that you can't just brush these buttons and it's going to be engaging the buttons, which was really annoying because you would be turning sometimes and you'd brush the buttons and it would just look like you're just a wreck going down the road. So now they've got these buttons so that they're not just like super touch sensitive. It's more of like a button. You actually have to press it in, and that's been very nice. Now if we want to engage the headlights, let's say we want to flash somebody on the road, we can just quickly do that. Just 2 quick presses and we can flash somebody on the road. If I want to turn on the high beams, specifically auto high beams, I can hold this down and boom, now auto high beams are on. And you can see over here on the right, I can adjust what kind of lights I want to be on. If I want to turn off auto high beams, I just click the button and there we go. Auto high beams are now off, which is very nice. If I want to engage the horn, same thing. I just press the button right there. This guy probably thinks I'm honking at him. I'm not. But I just press the button right there. The horn honks, and it's very easy to do. It's not a big pain in the butt. Right here, you'll notice this is actually going to be the button for it's letting you know that this controller right here is going to engage the autopilot setting. Now, I don't know why this is always on. It'd be cool if maybe that turned on when you actually engaged autopilot, but whatever. It's always on, and it just lets you know that it's there. So whatever. Now down here, you can see this is the actual windshield wiper, fluid, button, whatever you want to call it. It's for the windshield wipers essentially. And you can see when we hit that, it's nice. It just quickly goes on, and you're thinking to yourself, why do you think that that's nice? That's just how they should work. And it is how they should work, but it's not how they used to work. It used to be that you would just press this for a quick little whatever to get a bug off the windshield, whatever, and your actual wiper fluid would engage every time. And so to engage the wipers without the wiper fluid, you had to actually go into your system here and do it that way. Now they fixed it. All you need to do is press the button, and that's terrific. So you can put it on auto, and you can see up here in this screen here, when you tap that, you can set it to high, you can put it on auto, or you can just turn them off entirely. And then if I hold this button down, it will engage the wiper fluid and it'll clean the windows off, and yay, that's great. That works awesome, and that's the way it should be. Down further, we've got the voice control button, which I absolutely despise. I hate all voice control in cars, and it's not really my thing, but let's see if we can engage it and turn it off in a quick manner rather than it just always getting stuck on me. So here we go. Ready? No. It's not going to work for me. So whatever, it's just going to kind of try to read my voice, and then it's going to flip away, and it is what it is. So that's the controls on the steering wheel. Now you'll see here, there's like a little line on the steering wheel. Every Tesla Model S Plaid I've seen has this little line. I don't know if it's a cable underneath or not, but they have all got it. It looks kind of weird, and at first when you get it, you're like, oh man, Tesla QC is just horrible. And to be honest with you, they probably could have fixed that a little bit somehow with like slightly bigger padding, but whatever, not a huge deal, but it is a normal part of the car when you get your Tesla Model S Plaid. Now let's do a quick drive and drive around and see what we think about the car. I'll show you like the way that I've learned to drive the car, and it's pretty intuitive after a while. So we'll talk about the ergonomics of it and just the usability of the actual yoke as a whole. And we'll kind of jump into the adjustability right now. Okay, so for the adjustability of the car, pretty much the steering yoke comes out, this is about as far as it'll come out, and you can adjust your seat in a bunch of different ways. It's great. So in conjunction with the seat adjustability and the adjustability of the steering yoke going up and down and in and out, you can really put the yoke wherever you'd like to put it. I'm not going to mess with it because I don't want to mess with my settings, but rest assured you can adjust it however you'd like to. So for me, this is about the position I like to be in. So if I want to drive aggressively, I can, but also I can put my left leg up like this. I can kind of have more of a casual drive. I've got my hand kind of on my knee and on the steering wheel, and I can just, you know, for a highway drive, I can just easily drive around just holding the steering wheel, or I'm sorry, the steering yoke with one hand, which is nice. You should be able to hold it with one hand if you want to. Now, I will say that the Tesla manufacturers, the engineers, whatever, they've come up with a system here, I think with the yoke, to make it so that it's really a lot more comfortable to drive with two hands. It's not super comfy to drive with one hand. It's like the classic thing, like, what do I do with this hand? So really for me, it feels much better to drive with two hands, although you can, if you're doing something else in the car, grabbing something, you can drive with one hand. It's not a huge deal. Now, a key to this whole design of the steering yoke is going to be these little nubs here, and these nubs are the money nubs. That's what I call them. These are going to be the whole magic right here. If they didn't have these nubs, the car would be much harder to drive. And why I say that is because if I want to go right in a big way, I can easily do it. If I want to go left, see how my thumb is catching the wheel there? And you can also get up underneath it if you want to, or you can grab it like this. You can do whatever you want to, but these nubs are really key for just trying to drive like you normally do on any other car. So I'm liking that quite a bit, and the nubs here make it very comfortable for you to hold on to. Your thumbs kind of lock into place, and when you're driving aggressively, it feels very, very good, and it feels like you have a good amount of control of the car. So let's kind of take it out on the road. We'll look at how I actually drive the car, just driving around on normal city streets, and if it's easy for me, and the little substitutes I have for, you know, if I were to be driving with a classic steering wheel, whether I'm doing one-handed or spinning the wheel around or whatever. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, so here we go. We're about to take off, and you can see I'm going to put it in drive. I just tap there. It's got like the auto whatever. It can tell which way you want to go, and you can see already I'm grabbing the bottom left corner, and I'm just gonna spin it around. Very similar to how you'd turn an actual wheel in a car. So you can see I've got my palm on it, just like I would if I was spinning a wheel, and that makes it really easy and nice to do. So here we are, we're just gonna keep driving here. Notice I've got my thumbs in these little grooves here. This is probably the most comfortable way to drive the car. All right, so in closing with the steering yoke, here's my thoughts, just generally speaking. Would I put the yoke in every Tesla that they make? No, I really wouldn't. I think that the yoke really has a special place for the performance vehicles. For one, it makes the vehicle feel more special. When you're in here driving it, it feels different, and it feels like a special car. Aesthetically, it looks very cool, and it feels special. It's got its F1 origins, and that's just very cool. So a coolness factor, and just from feeling a little bit more special, I think it's very nice to have in a car that you're gonna pay a premium on because it's a performance model. Now, when we actually talk about the functionality of it, I think it does have some benefits to it. A couple of them being, yes, you can actuate, you know, the blinkers, the lights, the horns, anything without taking your hands off of the wheel. That's very nice. I think that's great. Is it 100% necessary? No, I don't really think so. But I will say the shape of the yoke and the way that they've done these little nubs and all this stuff, it really makes you feel like you've got a lot of control of the car. So when you're mashing down the pedal and you get a little bit of torque and you have these little micro corrections that you're making, it really inspires confidence and it feels like you're locked into the car. So from that standpoint, I like the control that you have with the steering yoke. I think that that's really, really nice. When we're talking about the actual seated position that the yoke forces you into, because it's not comfortable to drive lurched over with the yoke, it just feels odd. So it forces you into a more proper seated position, which I think is good for two reasons. One, it's good for the airbag deployment. If the airbag is to deploy and you get into an accident, it's going to be more effective in a proper seated position. So that's really nice. Two, I think you being in the proper seated position, the seat is going to do what it's supposed to. It's going to lock you in a little bit better. So when you're taking those aggressive turns, you're not sliding out as much as you would with like an unorthodox seated position. Not that you, maybe you would. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. So I think the aesthetics of it, the feel of it, it feels cool. And what it actually does for you performance-wise, I think it's very nice. I would choose the yoke over a classic steering wheel in the performance model specifically any day. Do I think it's necessary to put it in like a standard long range Y or a long range Model 3? No, I don't. And I think it just adds to the car feeling a little bit more special, especially being that the Plaid or whatever, they don't look that much different if they're a performance car versus just their standard cars. So to add the yoke in there just makes the car that much more special and feel that much more cool. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it. If you've had experience with the steering yoke or if you have questions or comments about it, please comment down below. I'd be happy to answer those questions to the best of my abilities. And don't forget, if you liked the video, please go ahead and give me a like, give me a sub, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.